Hello and welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the one-on-one speed dating and had some interesting engagements there. So thank you for staying on the line and for your patience. So now I would like to introduce the next round of startups and introductions from BIOTRONIK. And I would like to ask Dr. Volker Lang on stage. Volker is SVP of R&D for Cardiac Rhythm Management at BIOTRONIK. And Volker, we already had the pleasure at the expo of the last batch, and thank you for joining us again today and for introducing your startups and your projects for the upcoming program. And Volker, good to see you, and congratulations on the beginning of your first batch. And yeah, happy to hear what you want to share with us, and good to see you. Stage is yours.
Good. Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, short introduction. Last time during in February 2021, we did a short company presentation. I want to pick up and start from there. This is our ecosystem. We are producing implantable pacemakers and defibrillators and other devices. We're collecting source data, and we receive every day 400,000 messages from our patients, and so messages are then analyzed. Physicians are being informed if there's something which has to be reacted on really fast, and then we also transfer the data further to the electronic health records of our customers in the hospitals and in the physicians and other caretakers. And I told you that we want to enrich this environment, adding new data sources like sensors of smartphones or other data sources from other companies. You know, we heard today a lot about what also pharmaceutical companies are starting to collect. And therefore, for this batch, we wanted to go to three different things in our environment to enrich the environment. One is getting closer to the patient. The second one is how do I get the ability to acquire data from other sources and get consent that these other sources can be used for decision making. And last but not least, also address and convince the economic buyers about the advantages that such an environment brings, that you can detect events faster, you can predict earlier changing and worsening clinical situation, and therefore, in the end, improve care and decrease the cost. So what do we do with the patients? We heard it already today, the patients should not be alone by themselves. Just in complicated and complex diseases, it's very important that the patient is compliant with the treatment, is taking the medication, is keeping diets, and keeping on sports and other schedules. So we are working in the first channel to improve that, get closer to our patient, and try to improve that the patient has an interactive way to be improved and be more compliant with the treatment. With that, it's even it sounds interesting that you implant a very expensive device which runs for itself for 15 years, but still it's a lot about the activity of the patient to make them in the overall treatment feel better. The next about acquiring data. In today's world, with data security and privacy concerns, it's very important that the patient is very well aware what happens with this data. And we can only process data and combine different data sources if the patient knows about it. So we like to work on a system where it makes it much easier that the patient is aware which type of data we are processing, what conclusions we are drawing out of the data, and how do we bring benefit to the patient and make the life of the treating physicians easier because they also get those data fast and earlier. So second challenge is about digital consent management. And last but not least, convincing economic buyers. It's about what is the total cost for a certain treatment throughout the life cycle and throughout the patient journey. And if you use certain devices, if you use certain digital data exchange, how can this improve on average or for a specific patient or for a specific patient group, the overall cost, and therefore help the hospital to be more prudent with their available finances. And for each of the challenges, we found very interesting startups and very interesting ideas via this Creasphere setup. And I'm happy to announce that for each of those, we found a partner. For the first, Catalia Health, and they will present it in a second, for the digital consent management, confirmed consent, and Capsico Health for the lifecycle cost consulting. So from BIOTRONIK perspective, this initial batch seems to be working quite nicely. We were able to achieve what we targeted to do, enrich our network. We enriched it with the help of different companies. And let's see what the first batch brings. And with that, I would like to conclude my introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Volker, for that great introduction and for giving us some background on the startups that we're about to hear. And yeah, really looking forward, and good luck to you and the team for your first batch together. Perfect.
Thank you.
With that being said, I will hand over the word to my colleague Max for the startup introductions and the startup pitches.
Hello again, and also thank you, Frederica, again for your intro. Thank you, Volker, for your exciting pitch. I think it's very great to have you guys on board. BIOTRONIK, one of the leading players in the global cardiovascular field, and also a leading provider of great forward-thinking medtech technology. So thank you for your trust also in us and working together on our Batch 6 program for the first time. Really excited about that. So without further ado, we will start things with our first company, Catalia Health. They are tackling a very important issue together with BIOTRONIK, the issue of treatment non-adherence. So why is that a very important issue? Because the non-compliance to treatments is one of the leading factors that is actually contributing to adverse health events, to worsening health events, to failed treatments, and in the end also in the misallocation of financial resources in the healthcare systems. So just to put that into perspective, in the US alone, between 100 to 300 billion US dollars are spent on an annual basis to correct mistreatment and also the non-adherence of treatment plans. So how Catalia Health can help us cope and foster better patient compliance in terms of their treatment plans, I will hand it over to Corey, who is leading us away with his pitch. So welcome, Corey, and please unmute yourself and share your vision with Catalia Health.
Thank you, Max. It's great to be here. Thank you for a great introduction. Thanks to Volker for setting this up in terms of what BIOTRONIK is looking for. We're very excited to be working with BIOTRONIK for the coming months and to be a part of the Creasphere program. And so I would love to take a few minutes to introduce what we do at Catalia Health. My name is Dr. Corey Kidd. I'm the founder and CEO of the company. I have been working in the digital health space for about 25 years now. I did my PhD at MIT in artificial intelligence and psychology, in applying this into healthcare, particularly around chronic care management and how we help to engage patients on treatment and keep them engaged for the long term. And the way that we go about that at Catalia Health is we have built this very flexible AI-driven digital health platform that starts with patient engagement and how we truly and effectively engage patients. And this is based on psychology. You know, there is a challenge that that we're all experiencing very directly right now. A year ago or so, we might have been in the same room for these conversations. We would have done speed dating instead of 3 minutes online and face-to-face conversations. We would have had these kickoff meetings in person. And this is different, right? Trying to do it over a platform like this introduces its challenges. And the reason is that face-to-face is different. And there's a lot of psychological understanding around that. And this is particularly important in healthcare, When we're face to face, we're more engaged, we create stronger relationships, we're better at conveying information effectively. And the earlier work I was doing starting about 20 years ago was looking at this psychology and how we can translate it into the world of technology. And so that work has continued through two threads over the last 20 years. One is in understanding how different interfaces make a difference. At Catalia Health, we literally put a cute little robot in front of every one of our patients. The one that you see on the screen is our Meibu robot that's been deployed for the last 3 years in patients' homes. And we use AI to create conversations that are really tailored to that individual. So this is very different than a chatbot. It is literally a conversation, as though we were able to have a doctor or nurse check in on every patient every day and see how they're doing. And the focus here is on the combination of improving adherence and compliance, increasing patient engagement, and ultimately improving outcomes for a patient population. And we believe very deliberately that all the three of these things have to be combined in order to be effective. Now, we're replacing programs where you might call a patient once a month or see a doctor once a quarter with a program where we can talk to every single patient every day. As a result, we get a lot more information about our patients, which is very valuable to our device and pharma partners. Now, the core of the technology is these AI-enabled conversations, and we're able to get a lot more data about what's going on with our patients. We have deployed this in cardiology, oncology, and immunology to date, and are seeing very effective engagement with our patients and improved outcomes across all of those areas. And this is not just a slight improvement compared to existing nurse-based programs. We're engaging patients for up to 30% longer, which is an incredible difference. Going back to the problem that Max was just talking about and that BIOTRONIK has recognized, this is really critical in achieving successful outcomes with patients. And the core of what we have done is built our Meibu Care Insights platform. We have different interfaces. I talked a moment ago about the robot and the psychological importance of having that physical interface in our patients' homes. That said, we engage with patients through a variety of interfaces. Everything is cloud-based and secure and private. So we also interact with our patients through text messaging, through apps. On the back end, we have our data analytics platform. This also can help tie together other connected devices so that we can use other information in conversation with patients. And we're closely connected to our partners and customers. Now, prior to working with BIOTRONIK, most of our business has been in the specialty pharmacy and clinical trial space, where we're providing care management to all patients dealing with a certain disease state and taking a certain drug. One of the opportunities we're particularly excited about with BIOTRONIK is that we have been working with the American Heart Association for nearly 4 years now. In collaboration with them, we have developed a successful platform to help manage heart failure patients. And we're excited about the opportunity to extend that and to leverage the huge footprint of BIOTRONIK in these patients worldwide. So we're very excited to be a part of this program. We look forward to conversations with many of you as potential customers or investors during the networking session. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey, for your pitch. And of course, we're also looking forward to the program to come. We will assist you during the program, but you are already in very great hands together with our partner, BIOTRONIK. So thank you for your pitch and looking forward to forming some greater relationships and partnerships here. So next up, we will come to a company that has a wonderful background story, a quote that directly comes from the founders themselves. And I definitely want to echo that quote because for me, it's not only fun, but it also captures in essence what this field truly is about, the multifold perspective and approach that you need to take in order to address consent management for patients. So echoing that, the founders stated, what happens when a doctor, an attorney, and a psychologist walk into a bar? Confirmed consent was created. So I love that quote, and it actually describes the multifold perspective here. And of course, I want to hand it over now to you to describe further why those three people are required here. So Sina, thank you for being here. Welcome to the virtual pitching stage. And please lead us away with your pitch.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Sina, we can hear you very well.
Thank you to the audience for your time and your attention today. I'm here on behalf of our team at Confirmed Consent to show you kind of what we're doing and how we're trying to transform the informed consent space in healthcare. When you talk about consenting, whether it be chronic care management, remote patient monitoring, whether it be a surgical procedure, whatever it is, it's essentially a transaction between the patient and us. So for me, if I see a patient that needs a procedure and they come and see me, I'm obligated to go over the diagnosis, the details of the procedure, consider before in a neutral environment, they make that decision to put their trust in us and let us proceed with whatever we're trying to do, whether it's chronic care management, whether it's data monitoring, whether it's a procedure and so forth. We fundamentally as a team looked at this about 4 years ago and felt that it wasn't done appropriately. One, from a time standpoint, this redundant task leads to complacency. So a lot of physicians look at the consenting process as something that's redundant, and they try to cut corners. They may not present the information in the manner it was meant to be presented to every single patient. A lot of us don't do a good job adequately informing our patients of all the risks and benefits. If I'm driving my kids to school and then coming to the office and I get into a road rage incident, if I'm having a bad day, if I perceive the patient not being as educated as she is, I'm bound to present the information in a non-standardized fashion. And that leads to patients not having the information coming to them in the way they're entitled to receive it. And because of this, a lot of providers are left exposed because unhappy patients, uneducated patients, patients that are not happy are more bound to file litigation against the provider. So because of that, as the joke is, an attorney, a psychologist, and a clinician got together and said, you know what, we can do better. So what do? We created a platform that's cloud-based, that's HIPAA compliant, that essentially comes in and removes the consent from the provider's office into the patient's home so that the patient has time to Google various terms that they may not understand. So the patient can have the loved ones, whether it's a spouse, a parent, a kid sitting next to them to really get that information. And really what we want to do is we want to put the patient in a situation where that shared decision-making process is done truly in a neutral environment. And at the end, we're able to capture a legally binding consent so that both the patient is happy with respect to the decision that they made, and the provider is happy as well with respect to the fact that now they saved some time and they didn't have to spend the time in the office worrying about how much detail they were providing and so forth. What happens? So whether we're doing a consent for hospice, whether we're doing a consent for remote patient monitoring and chronic care management, whether we're doing a surgical consent, we come in and we provide a script to the provider. They sit in front of the camera, just like I'm doing right now, and they record a video as though they're consenting the computer. Our team grabs that video and we can do a myriad of things to it. We can add foreign language subtitles. We can add closed captioning for hearing impaired. We look at it and make sure it's done at an 8th grade level, so there's not too much medical jargon, so everybody understands it, and it goes in our system. From that point forward, that redundant task, every time the patient comes in and needs XYZ procedure done, they get a secure link at home in the comfort of their house, whether it's on a mobile device or any device. They log in. The video comes up of the provider explaining the procedure or the data collection, whatever it may be, and they don't have the chance to fast forward. They have to watch it in its entirety, but they can go back and watch it as many times as they want. And in fact, most patients watch the videos on average 3 times. Then they go through a proprietary platform, and this is modular. So we can basically mold this to fit the use case, but what we do behind the scenes is the patient's answering some simple questions to say, yes, I want you to do this procedure on me. Behind the scenes, we have a proprietary algorithm that confirms the patient had the right state of mind to say yes, that they were in the right state of mind, they understood the information, and that they can say yes. And to this date, about 1 in 300 patients do fail that component, and it's for a myriad of reasons. Early onset dementia, patient wasn't really sure about the procedure, patient didn't understand informed refusal, which is, you know what, I can say no at the end of it. Once that is done, then the consent goes out to the surgeon, a copy goes to the patient so they can be empowered and know exactly what they signed, and we hold on to the consent as well on our platform. Why do we do this? As a clinician, for my procedure as a medicine doctor, generally it's about a 15 discussion. For a clinician that does 20 procedures a month, that equals 80 hours per year that they're spending on this redundant task, which is not even being done right if you're going to look at it. That 80 hours can be spent doing other things that are more productive for that clinician. Why else do we do this? The reason we do this is on the patient side of it. You walk into a doctor's office and you're told you have this diagnosis. Your brain is processing what the diagnosis is, what the implications are, and at the same time, you're being told, this is what we want to do to you. Because of this, 60, 70% of patients walk out of our offices not knowing the details of the counseling. By giving them the chance to do this at home, we give them a chance to just go at this at their own pace. We give them a chance to interact back and forth and ask any questions that we have. And by having this available in foreign languages, by having this available, ensure the patients fully understand what they're agreeing to. And from a litigation standpoint, especially on the state side, about 30% of malpractice lawsuits that are filed annually, and that's about 25,000 a year, a third of those are on the basis of poor communication or inadequate consent. For a physician that gets sued, they spend about 40 hours on average on everything that's related to that lawsuit. By doing this, we decrease the litigation risk. This is why we have the endorsement of top malpractice carriers in the US and who are acting as our channel partners to expand the business for us, is because we provide that litigation protection. We provide a standardized consent. We document the process. We are patient-centric to make sure the patient's making an informed decision. And because of that, everybody comes out happy at the end of it. This is our team. Todd Hale is the brains behind the algorithm that we have. I was the clinical side. The third person that walked into the bar was the attorney, Makisha. And Alex is our rockstar tech who basically has developed now a modular platform where we can take different pieces and put it together and suit any workflow clinically that you may have. With that said, I thank all of you for your attention and turn it back to Fabian.
Thank you, Sina, for your great pitch, a very great background story, like I said. And of course, it's also a very important area, the area of patient consent management. So thank you for taking a very disruptive approach here, an approach that also helps BIOTRONIK going forward. So thank you for that. And now we are coming to our last BIOTRONIK startup for the Batch 6 program. Very excited to announce Capsico Health to be one of our members here and also pitching today. They are focused on a very novel and also important topic, the topic of value-based healthcare. So truly accompanying the shift from a quantity-based system to a more outcome-driven, quality-based system. So for that, I welcome to the virtual stage Ramesh. Very, very happy to have you on board here. And within your pitch, just also, I'm very curious how you can strike the balance between increasing the value and the quality of healthcare, but while this decreasing also healthcare costs at the same time. So please lead us away, and we're already excited for your pitch.
Thank you, Max. Can you all see my screen fine and hear me fine?
Yes, perfectly.
Wonderful. Thank you to Creasphere. Thank you to startup, Creasphere for inviting us. We're excited to be here. Also, to thank you to BIOTRONIK to be involved in some sort of partnership in terms of what we're doing in the space. So Capsico Health is based in Silicon Valley, and we have been quite interested in trying to simplify value-based care. And I'll define what value means. And the way we do it is to try and drive population health, at the same time bring in digital care to drive some certain interventions. And we offer a platform that basically enables you to identify populations, identify their risk, identify their costs, and find ways to early warn clinicians, at the same time find ways to improve care. So we call it driving value while reducing risk and costs in healthcare through intelligence. And I'm going to define clearly what value here is to a certain extent. Our platform is AI-driven, and we analyze billions of claims and medical record data to identify population risk, identify cost reduction areas, and how do you target interventions. We've been focused on two areas within that. One is the financial side. How do you know which patient populations are going to be expensive for you, or which patient populations need to actually sort of get better care in order to reduce costs? We also benchmark what we call as fee-for-service versus value-based risk, which is how do you go from quantity to quality. And then we also find ways to identify sub-cohorts of patient population that need help, that need support at the right time and the right interventions. And we've been working closely with payer groups, ACOs, and providers over the last 5 or 6 years right now. Our team is highly experienced. We've come from advisory board company, from IBM Watson Labs, from Stanford Medical and Berkeley. We're a mix of physicians and scientists and engineers with a lot of deep healthcare expertise. We've run companies in the past and also exited companies in the past, and we sort of bring our experience to be able to really look at population health, look at value-based care from multiple angles. As you know, we can't boil the ocean, so we decided to focus on a few areas which we think are still quite large. Oncology care, cardiac care, surgery, wound care, and to a certain extent, even primary care. And we do a lot of analytics on very large data sets to be able to really understand both the clinical side of risk and financial side of risk, and how do you find ways to reduce costs at the same time improve outcomes, all driven through evidence, through guidelines, and also through different processes. We've been ranked twice by Becker's Health as one of the top innovative companies in population health, and we're excited to continue to drive innovation in the industry so we can eventually reduce costs for all of us, at the same time improve quality of care for the patients. The reason why this became a big deal, at least in the US, in value-based care, is that Medicare, as you know, is a big part of supporting care for patients above 65, is moving more and more into trying to pay for value. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to move at least 100%, nearly 100% of patients onto value-based payment programs with hospitals and also with other industry participants. As of now, they're close to 40%, which is pretty attractive. But of course, it's still a challenge. A lot of hospitals and insurance businesses have to work together. So you can imagine some sort of a collaboration that has to happen to be able to figure out a way to reduce costs overall, not just in the US, in Europe and other parts of the world as well. And so value-based payments is coming in, and that's what's driving a lot of this work. And we're looking at this from a very broad perspective. To get into some sort of depth, within Capsicum Health, we've been focused on 2 broad areas, as I mentioned, and our products are designed in those areas. One is in the financial side, which is how do you rapidly identify a patient cohort by looking at claims data, medical record data, and identifying clearly within those populations, what is the average spend per patient per month? What's the overall cost per patient per year? What are the different ways to set price targets? And how do you actually analyze that particular patient population from the point of view of both the outcomes and so on and so forth? As a part of that, we deliver a product. Basically, it's AI driven, it's cloud hosted, it enables both providers and insurance businesses to see patient populations very rapidly. We also offer a digital care solution on top of the same platform that looks at patients on a day-to-day basis and helps clinicians figure out which patient populations need help today versus tomorrow versus the next 5 days versus the next 10 days, and help you drive care workflows driven by risk prediction models. And again, we're focused on oncology, focused on surgery, hip and knee. These are very complex areas, including cardiac and so on and so forth. These are areas that actually have high cost variation. We do this based on very large data sets. Our platform currently supports data for about 85 million members in the US, covering about 20+ billion claims and medical record data points. We also integrate to multiple EMRs. In fact, we integrate many more than 6. And we drive population risk. We drive analysis of their costs. We drive how are providers doing? How do you compare 2 providers within the same city? And we benchmark and provide a lot of value. As of now, we support about 200+ risk models within our platform that helps you drive intervention to a certain extent. And here is basically just a screenshot. I didn't want to get into a lot of depth given the short time frame, but we have 3 major products, as I mentioned. One is touching the financial risk contract design. Second is looking at populations and cohorts and subpopulations by different criteria that include both social determinants of health, include clinical factors, and so on and so forth. And then we also have, as I said, compare providers to a certain extent to see how is provider A versus provider B doing on, let's say, diabetes population or cardiac population or hip and knee surgery population. In the end, we want to figure out how far away are from the mean in terms of the overall cost and spend, and is there a way to reduce variation in care in the industry? And that's an important part of where we feel we can make a big transformation happening in the industry across the world. Case study, we worked with a provider who was very concerned about not being able to reduce costs over time. They had different lines of business, looking at different care protocols and care management tools. They were involved in risk-based contracts. And for them, we were able to collect a lot of data, organize it, and then reduce something like in the order of $500,000 per year. And in fact, it comes down to about $500 per patient per year that we reduced, which is a big deal when you think about overall cost reduction. And all of this is done through automation and different methods that we bring together. So why are we here? We'd love to partner with insurance businesses, partner with pharma companies, partner with medical device companies to be able to really help define what value is, identify ways to bring pilot solutions to full production solutions, and help you actually identify risky populations that need to be taken care of over the next 5 to 10 years, and help you in the overall journey to transform healthcare. So let me just stop here and thank you once again, Creasphere, for inviting us. We're very excited to be involved, and we want to continue to work with all of you.
Thank you, Ramesh, for that very insightful pitch. And this is, of course, a very, very high potential area, the area of value-based healthcare. So I think that you guys truly can make an impact to the industry, both on the US side as well as on the European side of things. So thank you for that. And also this concludes the 3 startups that we have on board for our program on the BIOTRONIK side. A very strong collection together with a very strong partner. So grateful to have both parties here on board and fostering new innovation in the startup Creasphere context.